please check out my review of The Pandorica Opens before continuing down the rabbit hole. Hi there. Run out of things to watch on Netflix and Disney+? Surfshark VPN will sort you out. Surfshark is an app and browser extension that virtually places your device in any country in the world. Since installing Surfshark, I've managed to watch Drive, Twin Peaks, Dr. Zhivago, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Seasons 3 and 4, The Twilight Zone, Fantastic Beasts, The Walking Dead. And that's not even mentioning the countless films and TV shows that are region-locked on Disney Plus since the release of their Star expansion pack. Surfshark works on your phone, laptop, tablet and Fire Stick, all under one subscription. For an 83% discount off a 2-year subscription, check out my link in the description. They also have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's basically a free trial if you don't like it, and a worthy investment if you do. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the review. The Big Bang kicks off with a rather odd introduction to an alternate reality where the stars have gone out. It has a sort of turn left feel to it.
The stars are going out.
Except now we're dealing with a world where the stars have been out for over 2,000 years. I love the idea that seeing stars is treated like some mental sickness, but that's about the extent the world building really gets in this episode. Human history seems to have followed along the exact same trajectory it would have done anyway, except for a couple of additional historical artifacts added to a museum. It's enough to throw a first-time viewer off, given how poignant the final shot of the Pandorica Opens was. Seeing daylight is enough to raise eyebrows, only for that leaky pipe to be fixed at around the halfway mark. I think it's a great setup for the story, throwing us into this nonsensical world from little Amelia's point of view. The reveal of adult Amy being inside the box was rather surprising too. I just found it rather unbelievable that this child would be missing for several hours without the security checking the entire building top to bottom, with her aunt kicking up a never-ending fuss. You could argue that the Doctor and Rory had a hand in keeping her hidden, but we never see that happen, which I think would have been rather interesting and humorous. So after the universe is taken out of existence, only the Doctor and Rory are left to put it back again. I did have a good laugh at the future Doctor swinging by to rescue himself again and again, but I thought it was a little contradictory that we see Daleks and Autons frozen outside the box with Rory the Auton still operating. They obviously needed Rory to be the person to get the Doctor out of the box because everyone else is either stuck in a time lock or dead. Sorry, let me rephrase.
But she's already dead. Or she's mostly dead.
In order to differentiate this Auton from the others, they needed an excuse to prevent him from turning to stone. I believe that excuse to be...
If something can be remembered, it can come back.
And there it is, our magical reasoning for keeping forgotten characters remembered, and will also be used to bring the Doctor back into existence at the end of the story. It's not the worst explanation. In fact, the whole of Series 5 had been dealing with this idea of knocking people and creatures out of existence entirely. Memories are the perfect metaphorical antidote to that problem. This power of memories idea also appears to be rather inconsistent when it comes to the Doctor's own memory of Amy.
Do you know how many lives now never happened? All the people who never lived.
Your girlfriend isn't more important than the whole universe.
I'm sure that at some point he'd figured out he could revive her with the Pandorica, and that he was merely testing Auton Rory about whether he's truly dedicated to her like he should be. I think the fact he wasn't frozen like the other Autons was proof enough, though. The worst thing about this line to me, though, is that this haughty attitude of the Doc seems to act as preparation for the audience. If memory serves, throughout the next series and a half, he will have to act like an emotionally inconsistent robot with spontaneous style to make him appear as though he's not just a third wheel, but also a bit of a control freak.
And break. And breathe.
See what I'm talking about? We move from one scene to another rather nicely with these open door wipe transitions, with Rory waiting around for 2,000 years guarding the Pandorica. It's a nice romantic sentiment, and I liked that his Autonness kept him looking the same way, but I think it would have been nice if they had previously established that the Autons have the capacity to live for thousands of years. Without it, the dialogue shared between the Doctor and Rory before the wait seems to imply that such a fact was already established. Maybe they said it at some point in the classic era, or even in the episode Rose, and I know that plastic can take an awful lot of time to decompose. What I'm mainly advocating for is either some kind of change in Rory the Auton to make the concept of him sitting around for 2,000 years more believable, or one line of dialogue reminding us of the Auton's lifespan. The power of memories is also able to bring Daleks back to life in the present day as well. Only joking. Apparently the light from the Pandorica woke it up. Honestly, I think that's an even worse excuse, considering how that could have been the means by which Rory was reawakened. But okay, they get chased by a Dalek in a museum with the Doctor sealing more leaking pipes with a fez on his head, which was rather hilarious. Here, however, the kicker is that the Doctor from the near future shows up and dies on those steps right in front of them. This moment doesn't quite pack the punch we might be yearning for though, because at this point it's fairly clear to assume that death doesn't matter in this new era of the show, even if we see a character give out their last dying breath. You can even get erased from history and still find yourself married to the love of your life with a set of in-laws to boot. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of seemingly significant things are happening too fast for me to truly keep up with the details and be emotionally invested. I am a bit of a tortoise, after all. One just has to hope that the trio and the TARDIS dying and being subsequently revived is a bug and not a feature.
You need a good death. Without death, there'd only be comedies. Dying gives us size.
Inside the TARDIS, we see River performing the same actions over and over. I felt this to be rather needless, considering the Doctor basically explained this on the rooftop a few seconds earlier.
I'm sorry,
It must be like a recording or something.
No, it's not a recording, of course. The emergency protocols. The TARDIS is sealed off the control room and put her into a time loop to save her.
I am also uncertain as to what exactly is blocking the front doors every time she opens it. I know that we won't get an explanation for a whole bunch of things this season had to offer until later on, which is rather unfortunate because I quite liked how each of Davies' series rounded themselves off quite nicely and didn't leave massive questions in the mind, like, what is the silence? What's up with this wall? Who programmed the TARDIS to visit Amy's gaff and then get it to replace the sun for 2,000 years? What caused the TARDIS to blow up? Why is the TARDIS blowing up causing all these cracks in time? I'm sure that the producers knew full well that they were going to be creating this show for many years to come, and leaving things open-ended isn't a bad narrative decision. The problem I feel is that people's memories are short, and these sort of questions will have been forgotten by the time another series is produced. There's also a more cynical angle that I'm willing to entertain, in that they would rather beg for viewers to carry on watching than attempt to finalize anything in the story. It's why I genuinely don't feel like this episode stands out very well amidst more significant finale episodes. The Doctor then rescues River from the TARDIS and they destroy the Doctor's fez. This leads to a rather convenient escape from a Dalek, where the Doctor uses a satellite dish as a shield against Dalek blasts. It makes you wonder why he hasn't armed the human race with these things the numerous times the Daleks have invaded the Earth in this show. Worse still was how the Doctor decided to ditch such a significant form of defense, knowing full well that he was going to get zapped any minute. I thought it was a shame that the character didn't even have a real dilemma about the fact that he might die any second due to this episode's speedy pacing. After the Dalek zaps the Doctor, we get a proper anime moment with River's song explaining how she's going to kill the Dalek before proceeding to do so.
Your systems are still restoring, which means your shield density is compromised. One alpha meson burst through your eye stalk would kill you stone dead.
On the one hand, I found this moment rather annoying. Like, if she knew all this information, why didn't she just shoot it? It's been plain as day from the beginning of the episode that time is of the essence, yet at the same time this character knows that there's a future for her and the Doctor, so she can act as invincible as she likes and have it work in the narrative's favour. Great idea, rather cringy execution. Amy and Rory then end up in the library episodes where they found the Doctor in the Pandorica barely alive. The Doctor has wired up the vortex manipulator to the box so that its restorative light can shine all over time itself.
What happens to us?
We all wake up where we ought to be. None of this ever happens and we don't remember it.
Well, that was easy.
I initially quite liked the idea that the Doctor would be forgotten by everyone in order to restore the universe and give Amy her parents back. It's a really cool sacrifice that completely overwrites that silly line from earlier.
Your girlfriend isn't more important than the whole universe.
And even the bottle rocket teleporting looked fairly cool. Unfortunately, this causes the Doctor to go back on his own time stream and make a few adjustments. It feels a bit too familiar for me though, reminding me of when Martha Jones went around the world and told people to pray for the Doctor to bring him back to life. We have a similar sort of thing going on here, but using time instead of space. I didn't like it then, and I think it's rather flimsy here too. It's pretty impressive that such a seemingly unimportant conversation between Amy and the Doctor in the episode Flesh and Stone occurred completely unnoticed like this. At least it didn't take an entire episode to perform this kind of miracle, but still feels really vacuous and uninspired to me.
When you wake up, You'll have a mum and dad.
I think I'll skip the rest.
They try pulling on the heartstrings with the score and lines like, "Oh, the fun times we had a pond," but really, after the lack of finality this series has put us through, it's hard to feel as though this is really the end. I'm just surprised all his rambling didn't wake her up, in all honesty. We jump back to the present day where our third alternate reality manifests. Amy is treated to breakfast in bed, which she spills all over her bed sheets, and greets the parents she never had. We then see the wedding reception, and this temporary world without the Doctor definitely feels strange. Amy's phony laughing at her parents' jokes without really knowing why was great. Their lack of characterization also makes this all rather peculiar. I did like that moment of recollection she has, interrupting her father in the midst of his speech. It's always confused me why the bride never traditionally gives speeches, and it's great that this very breaking of tradition manifests in this scene. Even the idea of bringing back the Doctor into existence has a very Peter Pan I do believe in fairies vibe to it, with the blue blank diary and the something blue poem recital. Unfortunately, they missed a great opportunity here, as none of the wedding guests question what on earth is going on in front of them. I'm getting flashbacks to Rory's stag party where none of the characters, including the best man, are ever identified or made into characters in any meaningful way. The room might as well be filled with autons! It did seem a little strange as well that everyone had supposedly forgotten the Doctor bar Amy, and also River? Did the Doctor go back and whisper sweet nothings into her ear as a child as well? This is kind of important to know, because if River doesn't remember even meeting the Doctor, what's she doing in Ledworth in the 21st century? There's also a rather strange dancing bit, yet I seem to remember the Doctor actually being capable of dancing last I watched the show. The final scene has the characters flying away as though nothing had happened. Not only does River tease the next series, but even the Doctor gets a phone call from somebody that hints at an episode that won't be released until 4 years afterwards. I suppose on the one hand, the promise of more episodes like Amy's Choice that will challenge the married couple's relationship is a nice prospect. However, if that comes at the expense of not solving the TARDIS exploding mystery entirely, then count me out. I guess these guys are going to be a busy bunch in the next series. So, did it suck? I think I'm having deja vu. Great opening episode, disappointing wrap-up. There are some fun moments in here. The underdeveloped world without stars, the vortex manipulator antics, and the wedding itself has a lot of great moments too. It also suffers from being really uninspired and felt rather empty in terms of drama. Rory guarding the box was nice, but lacked details to make it believable. All of the reasons that are created to make things right again feel poorly thought out, and there's no finality to anything aside from Rory and Amy getting married. I find it to be quite forgettable as a result, and overall this episode just falls short of making a good conclusion for me. Just stick around for another series where you get to watch more paint dry. What do you think of this episode? Comment below your thoughts or join us for a chinwag on my Discord server. You can get early access to reviews like this one, as well as exclusive content, by making a pledge on my Patreon page. I give The Big Bang Theory a 4 out of 10. We move from one scene to another rather nicely with these open door wipe transitions with Rory waiting around. Rory. I think it's a shame that the character doesn't even have a real dilemma about the face that he might... About the face? About the fact. Oh. Amy and Rory then found the... Rory and Amy then end up in the... No. Rory.